Adam the Ant Plays presents, in partnership with the 34th Recon Fleet, Star Trek Online PC Tips. The goals of these tips are to help new players navigate a very complex game. I will get things wrong. Things will change. You are responsible for learning the game, verifying the efficacy of the information, and playing the game the way you enjoy. Please skip ahead in the tutorial or use the document for a faster, no-nonsense approach. This guide assumes you are level 65, but can be used as you level up. I do hope you consider allocating some of your time towards exploring and immersing into the stories, rich environments, and fantastic acting. Supported by any knowledge of Star Trek media over the years, the experience is marvelous. It's no secret, there are plenty of ways to spend real money in this game. This will not replace skill and knowledge. Understanding the game will help you make better choices. Use discretion when evaluating your personal time over money situation. I encourage anyone to email me with suggestions, corrections, or ways to improve this guide. As of writing this, I am still a very new player and always learning. The support is welcome and thank you. You can find all of my contact information in the links below or in the document. So let's get started. We have a couple of sections to cover here. In the first tutorial, we're going to just be covering a couple of basics, kind of entry level into the game. So let's show you the game and talk about the launcher. So the first thing we have is how to launch the game. There are various ways to launch. You can obviously use the Steam launcher, which I have showing right now on the screen. There are also, Arc launchers, probably other things by now, and you can also launch the game directly if you choose. There are a couple of things in your options here, and I will show you the Steam options. The first one, show tray and icon. I don't know if that tray icon really matters that much. I have fast launch unchecked, and I honestly don't even know what that does, so leave it unchecked. These two, the patching toggles, are on-demand patching. If this is checked, it will only load what is needed for the current map. Sometimes that works better for people's internet connections, so use that if you choose. I unclick it so that I can load the full game. Force verify. Sorry if my mouse was over it. Force verify is a way to verify the game files. Probably equivalent to like a reinstall. If you have any wonky issues, you can hit that, load the game up, and then uncheck it the next time you load, because it takes a little longer as it verifies all of the game files locally. Full screen, I've heard that this toggle will help if you have a widescreen monitor and there's a crash at launch. You can mess with this and see if this helps. Otherwise, I don't have it checked. And safe mode is if you're having problems with your graphics, you can do that to verify if you have driver issues or whatever. As far as the command line, I don't have any recommendations on the command line. I wouldn't do this. I don't even know where I got that. So no recommendations currently, but there are a couple savvy users who may choose to add things to the command line for better, to load that up as the game loads. All right, and that's what we have. So we're keeping this install location. That doesn't really matter. Okay, let's get into the game, and we will talk about some basic quality of life settings you want to configure. This will help you just make the game a little more pleasant. Of course, all of these tips are my personal configurations and settings. Feel free to explore and make your own decisions ultimately. I guess I need to add some wait music, some hold time. All right, here we go. So once we get into the game, you select your character, of course. We're not really going to talk about character building. I assume you already did all of that with because you're probably playing the game for a while. If you haven't played the game, then there's a lot of things to go through, I guess. But we are going to load my character, Anubis. And this gives you your welcome screen. We don't really need to see that. And here we are. All right, so here is my Federation ship. It's a beauty, isn't it? Let's take some time to appreciate the beautiful ship that I have. The Spear of Anubis. I'm quite fond of it, actually. My new baby. I just got this ship the other day, so I'm very excited. All right. Anyways, what we're talking about first is the quality of life settings. So you're going to want to hit Escape, get you into the Options menu. And from Options here, we're going to talk about what, just kind of the basic things. I'm not going to go over every little detail, but these are the ones that I do. First, I go to Basic. And in this one, the couple things that I want to point out are the difficulty. As you can see, I have it on Advanced. I would not recommend that. I was just trying to level up the ship mastery. So normally, normally we'd be on normal. Normal is the preferred method of leveling and playing the game. It's just Advanced is quite a bit more difficult, and then you risk injuring yourself or damaging your ship, which you need special. You need to either go to the starbase and find the person that repairs the ships, or you need to have enough resources on hand to repair on the fly. You can do it, but the reward versus the risk isn't really worth it. But if you want to challenge yourself and try Advanced as you level up and gaining your ship some more power, there's no problem doing that. You can also do better DPS testing if you're on Advanced, because the enemies have a lot more resilience and they'll take a lot more hits, so you can kind of see how much damage you can actually output. It's fun, but ultimately, normal is where you want to be. That should be the default, especially if you're helping new players, because they'll die a lot in Advanced. Other than that, the other one that I make sure I check is the move equipped items to newly readied ships to on. And this just makes it a little bit easier when you're swapping ships to grab the available equipment and move it to the new ship. It's not perfect because every ship will have different numbers of slots and availabilities, so your equipment you still have to kind of spot check it. But generally speaking, it makes it a lot easier than going through and clicking everything. And we'll talk more about readying a ship and all that in another episode. All right, but these are really the only two things that I do. The only other one that's the elephant in the room is your grandma's cursor. I like to have a giant cursor because in the heat of the moment in combat, it's easy to lose your cursor, and so I just make it as enormous as possible. Beep boop. So 2.0. It's the highest I would make it 5.0 if I could. It would be half the size of the screen if I could do it. And I'd make it glowing in neon, but I can't do that. Maybe someone knows a mod or something where I can make my cursor a neon bright cursor. I would love that. Thank you for putting that in the comments below. All right, so there we go with the basic. And the other really big one that I want to talk about is audio. So this is the one that most players, at least when they're teaming up or starting to play with other people, they get really overwhelmed by the audio settings, because while it's very immersive, it is very loud. So here's how I set up my audio. I have overall volume down to 25%, and I have FX volume down to a mere 10%. I want to hear a little bit, but I don't. It's just enormous in big space battles. Music volume I have turned off, and ambient volume I have a little bit, 20%, because I do like to hear the background noise a little bit. Interface volume, that's clicking around. That's 30%. It's fine. Clicking buttons, I do want to hear that. Voice volume, because I know voice actors, you want to keep this up all the way to 100. But really, we're not gonna tell the voice actors. We're gonna put this all the way back down to 0, because we are tired of hearing their voice lines 257 times. I've heard enough. But if you are playing the game for the first time, enjoy the voice acting. It's great. I just don't want to hear it anymore, so I zero that out, because it gets a little monotonous and they're kind of bossy. I don't want them to tell me what to do. They tell you how to fight, and I've got it. I figured it out. but thanks. So, but yeah, the first time around, sure, use the voice acting. It's actually really, really good. Notification volume, I don't think that matters too much. 15. And video volume. This is the cutscene videos. Again, I usually skip through them, but I don't have any reason to listen to them. So we're going to put that down to 10% cutscene videos. All right. Output device. This can get a little bit wild. When you're looking at your output device, you will have everything available in Windows. Sometimes Windows and the game will output the audio to a different device, something you're not expecting. If that happens, fix it. Hit apply, and then exit the game, come back in. It should stay. But I have had some minor issues with it. I don't know about these or why they matter. Mute voice after dialogue. I don't even know why. So media player, I don't know what that is. I don't use it. All right. So that is the audio. This alone will help your teaming and group play enormously. Me and my fleet, we use Discord. So if you do use Discord and not in-game chat, you're going to want to disable the voice chat in-game. I usually do that by default anyways, just disable it. But if you do want to talk to people in the game, feel free to use this. I don't. All right, the last thing in this that I want to talk about, of course, everything else, go through. Even keybinds are probably important to be aware of, but controls. So controls are dependent on your area. So if you're in space, like we are, you're going to be modifying the space controls. You can do it here in ground, but I would just recommend being in the area that you want to review. So because any changes you make are going to be to the space settings and not the ground ones, unless you're on the ground. Mouse look, that's all personal. If you want to copy my controls, that's fine. I know there's a bunch of there might be some targeting issues. You'll find that tab targeting can really be frustrating when you're dealing with a lot of different enemies and your weapons are firing everywhere and you're turning and you're targeting an enemy behind you, but you want to get your front weapons facing and you have to tab through to the right target. I get it. There are some mods. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but there's a couple of ways you can fix your targeting options. So you might want to select auto target on attack, things like that. I don't really, this is how I have it, but I probably could get a little more information. And if I do, I will bring it to you in another video. But this is how I have mine set up. Okay. Let's talk about the next big thing. We're going to talk about keybinds a little later, but in general, just looking and being aware of the defaults, this is fine. If you need to use a key for something else, just make sure you know what it's originally used for. And actually, did that? Huh. I guess HUD settings are pretty interesting. I've never messed with these. I leave these on default. But I wonder if I would say default on these. That's not a big deal. We'll talk about more of that later. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is the actual HUD and how to configure it. You'll see my ship here, and the one in the document is fairly similar. I like to keep my my HUD very clean as far as I want to see the most amount of space, and when I'm flying around and in combat, I like to have a lot of open area to really enjoy and immerse myself into the moment. So I have my everything kind of really compact down here at the bottom, and hopefully it's not invasive to my, it's not occupying any extra space. There's a couple of things that are very important to remember in this, the method of building your HUD. One is you want to, obviously it's the same thing. It's space and ground are independent. So, but there are a little bit of overlaps. So just be careful when you move things around. Then when you land on in a ground mission, you're going to have to probably verify that everything is in the right place and everything's good. What you want to do is you want to hide windows that you don't use. you want to resize things to a more apt space in your workspace here, and move things around however you want. I like the clearest view, like I said, and you want to streamline and minimize whenever possible to remove any redundancies. If you have a button 3 places, there's no reason for that. You just add one, and I'll show you a couple of tips on how I do it. Of course, each ship will have its own set of priorities, weapons, bridge officers, etc. So this don't just copy. You have to customize it yourself. And you can save the settings, but when you swap ships, there is a little bit of adjustment. So be ready for that, and have a method of how you want to organize your thing. So first off, how do you move these windows around? You hit the escape key, you click the rearrange HUD, and here it is. So for instance, all of these things are available. I can show you where my bridge officers stay, and I'll explain to you why I don't use this. And I will also show my endeavors and my missions, which I typically have off until I'm in the missions or doing endeavors. So this is how you would move things around. You just drag them and leave them go. You also have another couple of options in here. You'll have on your big personal tray down here, you'll see a button that says, I don't know, there's a word. And when you click that word, it'll create a second tray. When you click your second tray, that's how you expand your personal tray for abilities. So let's hit escape again. We'll go back to the screen, and now we see all the things that we had hidden. And the reason I do this is I bring all my bridge officer abilities into my bars, so there's no need to see them here. I occasionally like to see them just to verify I didn't miss anything, but overall I will never click from here because I felt that was a lot more it's just more intrusive, and it's another thing in the way. So again, redundancy, I've simplified it and put them all into the actual bars. The other things, if you're not doing endeavors for a particular day, you would there's no reason to watch it. And also the same thing with missions. Why do you have the mission window open if you're not doing missions? So I like to go back, not to options, but go to rearrange HUD, and I like to hide, and hide these, and then have all these ready. So that's how I did it. Let's see. I don't really know of any other tips as far as that goes. So let's talk about a little more detail about how to build and my methodology and how you should sort of think about your, and if you're an MMO experienced player, you might have your own thing. So I will just explain the way I think about this layout. So what I do is I like to group things in functionality. So all of my pets or things like photonic fleets and Herc, the waveform beacons, anything that's going to drop out. Now I do have a pet down here as well, the deploy satellite, which I can move around maybe up here, but I wanted that little gap. So I just chose to move it here. Honestly, these drop in from your inventory automatically to bar 1, so I just left them there. But if I was going to be true to my method, I would have this closer to all of my pets, drones, things like that. And of course, fighters are a little different, so we'll talk about that as well. But you can see my fighters are over in their own fighter bay, and I like to have them nestled over here in the corner. All the fighter commands are on top, so I don't need to have anything in the buttons, but you might want to have your fighters and your commands down here where you can activate them. I don't mind coming here because I don't really mess with these fighters too much. We can launch a few just to show you because they look amazing. Jem'Hadar fighters, thank you. So then the other things I have is I have a couple of attacks where I like to use my fingers on these, and then up here I've got defensive buffs. I've got my torpedoes, which are on a keybind on number 6, and then I have a couple of additional weapons like scatter volley. I separate my weapon attacks, but that's just me. And then on the bottom, I have all of my abilities that I want to be using constantly, and I have this on a keybind on my spacebar so that I can activate my fire at wills, some of my defensive buffs, things that I want to always be on that I'm not planning on targeting. So while I might want to target or plan a torpedo spread a little more carefully by getting in the right position, these other weapons, like fire at will, I want to be always on this. As often as possible, I want to have my beams firing at any target available. So that's my reasoning for that. How do you actually do that? Well, you're going to touch the P key, and this brings up your available skills and abilities for your ship. Now, the important thing about this key, well, one thing is you want to unlock the tray first so you can move things around. You want to make sure you're looking very carefully at this list. Not everything in this list has to be on the bar, but you can very easily miss very important things that are just kind of sneaking in. I noticed when I started playing this game, there were a lot of sub-menus and different details of maybe a weapon set or an item set that gives you another ability that isn't easily noticeable. So that's why I use this and find anything that you don't recognize that's not an ability, and you go, hey, that's weird. I didn't know I had this. And you can read the description. What does it do? And put it in the appropriate area of your bar just by simply dragging it. So you drag it down here, and actually, strangely enough, I don't have this one. That's odd. What a convenient. Oh no, there it is. I don't like it there though. So I guess that's fine. All right, so this is a defensive clicky. It's a interference platform. It's kind of like a taunt. I think it should be over here with my other clickies that are protecting me. Let's do that. We're going to move the taunt over there and the little shield as well. Makes more sense that they're all there. So there we go. Live adjustments. So once you drag everything where it goes and verify that you have things, sometimes if you don't want something, like I don't even use this one, I don't even have it on a bar. So again, this is all personal. And once you get all that complete, you want to always make sure that you save. Lock that tray, because if you don't lock the tray, your things will, well, you know how what kind of a bad situation that can be, because suddenly you're moving abilities off your bar, you can't find them, you're in the heat of combat. Watch out. So make sure you lock it. You're down to go. The other thing to do is you can arrange these menus however you like. You'll notice that my numbering system makes 0 sense, and I encourage you to just add a little chaos in your life. Who needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? I prefer 1, 9, 3, 7, 5, 6, 8. That's great for me. That just works. If it's triggering you, I apologize. It's just the way I roll. I don't do normal things. So what you do now is you have your bars. If you want to readjust or add rows, you can hit these little keys. You can get up to eight rows per whatever they're called, panel, I guess. And you can also choose to turn them or rotate them 90 degrees and have fun moving these however you prefer, however you like. It's all you. You can also hit this button, which I don't remember what it does. Let's find out. Oh, that just brings up your P key. So same thing. P on the keyboard is a hotkey, or click that to do your available skills. Okie dokie. I think that is it. And where are we at on time? Oh gosh. Yeah, let's wrap this video up, and because I don't want it to go too long, we'll talk a little bit more about the keybind details and bars, but I pretty much covered what I want to cover. So thank you very much for watching this very first video of Star Trek Online Tips. I will be doing more, going through. There's so much detail in this game, so bear with me. I will, if you have specific questions or things you want covered, when the series is over, of course, we can revisit a lot of things, but I really appreciate you checking it out, and hopefully this will help your Star Trek Online experience. Have a wonderful day, and I appreciate you. Take care. Oh, do all the smashing and liking and sharing and stuff that you know how to do on YouTube. I don't know why people still think you have. Well, maybe you're new. Maybe you're new here to YouTube. Smash the like, click the bell, all the things. All right, thank you. Bye.